People who left their spouses for the person you cheated with. How did things end up?
Story 1. My ex cheated on me twice. Twice I forgave her and continued to live under her and do whatever she required of me. Then I met a girl who treated me like I'd never been treated before, who fell in love with me and me with her. But we decided not to proceed because I did love my ex and we had been together 9 years, our whole adult lives. In the end, my ex got me for a third time, and this time she emptied the house, left the dogs, and left me to move to the city with a man she met 2 weeks prior. Who was there to pick up the pieces of me? The sweet girl I met. And she gave me nothing but support and even helped me move house. We sparked our relationship again, and it felt like forever this time. She stayed. My ex was a piece of crap, always drinking and doing drugs behind my back, got a DIU, left me alone at the hospital the morning I had to go in for surgery because he was dead drunk, so things started going south, obviously. My ex was good friends with our neighbor and introduced us, and we started hanging out. First all 3 of us, but gradually just the 2 of us because my ex would constantly go missing for days at the time to go party when we were planning stuff. Our neighbor has nephews the same age as my kids and they were always together, so we'd plan things for them like going to the zoo, fishing, etc. But my ex would go MIA last minute a lot of the time. Never cheated on him, but at some point I had enough and told him it was over and to move out. He wasn't having it at all. Anyways, that brought me even closer to our neighbor. He helped me with packing his stuff and ensuring my ex wasn't violent when the time came for him to move out, since he was basically always nearby. We took things slow because none of us wanted to be in a relationship, but at this point he was already like an uncle to my kids, having known them for years. And about a year after my separation, me and my neighbor started dating officially. It's been 4 years, we bought a house on the same street a year and a half ago, planning on getting married, and I'm currently pregnant with our first together. He's a wonderful and very considerate partner. I couldn't ask for more, really. Sometimes I feel like my ex's purpose in my life was solely to introduce me to my current partner and teach me to stop accepting the unacceptable. Happy you met someone who waited for you. I'm with someone who got cheated on and is in the middle of a divorce. We plan to get married eventually, hers second and mine first. Sometimes I'm scared that I'm just a phase for her since she's going through a rough phase, or is it going to be for a lifetime? We really want it forever, but it is too soon for everything. I kind of did the same thing to her what your current partner did for you. Do you think you will fall out of love with her? Can you ever forget your past? Can you ever stop loving your ex-wife? These things always keep me up at night. Also, the country I'm in, it would be a taboo to marry a divorced lady and add to it dating her even before she gets divorced. These are some of the things which make me cautious going forward. Don't get me wrong, I don't care about getting married to her part. Dating her is a bit difficult in the current scenario. All I want to know is your perspective about your current partner. How you see her? Can you really love her as deeply as your ex-wife? Will the love die/mellow down eventually, since you no longer would be emotionally unstable? I'm asking you this because this is the closest perspective I could get on her, hence your reply will be greatly appreciated. Only time will tell. My ex will always have a part of me with her and she with me. I was with her since I was 17 and I will never forget her, but what she did to me is unforgivable. I was emotionally abused and manipulated for years and didn't do anything about it until I met someone who gave me what was missing. And since I've been given that opportunity to be loved in such a way, I will give her all of my love. Give her what was missing in her last relationship, make new memories, find things that she never did with him, and create a whole new life. It is possible. So there's a lot going on in this first story. I just want to say a few things off the bat. First off, I think divorce is fine. I don't think the divorce is necessarily a failing. Some relationships just come to an end. But on the other hand, I do think that cheating is always wrong. You shouldn't cheat. You should try to avoid it. It happens. People make mistakes. So the other thing I wanted to say is we can't totally judge all the people in these stories. We don't know everything that goes on in their relationship, and we're only getting one side of things. So I'm going to try to not judge people too harshly unless they're just completely out of control. Yeah, I guess I just wanted to say that, I'm glad that some of these people seem to have found, some better partners, and, sometimes that's what you need. Sometimes an old relationship doesn't work. Cheating isn't the best way around it, and sounds like the first comment avoided the cheating and eventually got with a person that they're much happier with, so that's good.
Story 2. My ex-husband cheated on me and left me for her. By all accounts, they were happy for a short time, a very short time. Once the excitement of cheating wore away, they were left with nothing but each other. My ex-husband ended up alone and miserable because the woman he left me for cheated on him repeatedly. Karma. Same, and then the moment he wanted to move in with her, she started seeing another of their married coworkers. Once he realized he had tossed his family away and moved 1,600 miles to be with someone who wasn't that serious about it all, he wanted to come back. I could never. Been divorced now for 8 years, and honestly, I never realized how unhappy I was being married to him. Doing all the household management, all the emotional labor, and being the breadwinner. My life is so much less complicated, and I'm raising the kids all by myself. It's less work. I completely understand, especially the part of not realizing how unhappy you were. I was the same. Once everything settled, I realized I was free. I've never been so happy. I'm really glad for you too. Exactly this. I have both kids after splitting with my cheating ex-wife, and it is less work to do everything myself compared to doing everything myself while having someone making my life miserable at the same time. I had to run the household, take care of the kids, and bring in all the money, but had to always hear about how she would do it. Luckily, she decided she liked drinking and cheating more than sticking around us. Did he come crawling back to you after? If he did, how did you respond? He tried. I wasn't interested. We were married for 15 years, and I would have done anything for him. He broke that loyalty I had for him in half, and I couldn't even stand to look at him. If they'll cheat with you, they'll cheat on you. Karma indeed. Yep, as the saying goes, when the mistress becomes the wife, she's created a job opening. I hope my ex-husband's second wife doesn't get a good night's sleep for the rest of their lives together.
I've heard these phrases and sentiments like this before, where it's like, once a cheater, always a cheater. And I don't want to believe it, because I do want to believe that people can improve and get better, and I'm certain that some do, but it is definitely something to keep in mind, unfortunately, because sometimes this can be true, but I'm sure other times it's not. I don't know. I just want to believe in the best.
Story 3. First wife here who was cheated on. She cheated on him, and now he has a second wife. I'm still friends with my ex-husband and have heard that the relationship was pretty toxic after they got married. Like, she changed completely once she had the ring. What made you stay friends? Despite it all, he's a wonderful, funny, and caring person. I liked him all those years. Looking back, we have made better friends than spouses. Plus, we have kids, and I didn't want to be one of those contentious divorced parents. I wanted our kids to know that two people can divorce and still be adults who co-parent with no conflict. Trying to model that a relationship may fail and that is okay. How did you find out he was cheating? The typical cheating signs: working late, hiding the phone, etc. It wasn't hard to put 2 and 2 together. On a cheerier note, I was working late one evening and my girlfriend came to the office and surprised me with food from my favorite Indian joint. She might have done it because she was suspicious, but we had a lovely meal and it was quite romantic. Story 4. My first husband fell in love with a friend from university. He would go around complaining to parents and friends how unfair life has treated him and how he is suffering. Divorce wasn't an option for him as a devout Catholic. After about a year, I found proof of his emotional affair and I left him. Turns out she wasn't even interested in being more than friends with him. As far as I know, he's been single ever since. It's been 6 years, I met the love of my life just over a year ago, and I'm pregnant with our first child. Did the other woman even know she was an other woman, or did she just think they were close friends? I can't imagine how alarmed and disgusted I'd be if one of my male friends showed up at my house and announced they'd left their wife for me. As far as I know, she didn't. Maybe just thought he was inappropriate at times. I would if a friend was messaging me in the way he was messaging her. He confessed his feelings after I left and told me himself that she was not interested, but I don't know more details because I didn't even want to hear it. I've heard several stories where the guy left his marriage for someone else before finding out if the feelings were mutual. I understand how tempting a new start could feel and how falling for someone is nice, but that's just jumping the gun. This happened to me. A coworker left his wife and kid for me when I only ever said hi to him in the hall and attended team lunches where he was also present. We were hardly even friends. It was horrible. Story 5. I have never done that, but I had a friend, or more like an acquaintance, who did that. Now the guy has like 3 kids with 3 different women, and I can't really respect the guy anymore. Let's just say that the guy doesn't seem very happy and is in massive debt. Let me guess, he claims all of them are crazy and bemoans women as if they're the issue in his warped little life. I don't know all the details, but he was always kind of a D-bag to women, and there was never winning an argument with this guy, so usually it was easier to let him think he won and just ignore the guy. So if he was like that with his friends, I can only imagine how he sees the women. Don't get me wrong, there are crazy women as there are crazy men, but when there is a clear pattern in behavior, maybe the women were not the problem. Narcissist probably, little guy with a god complex and overinflated sense of self. Yeah, there are crazy ones out there, but guys like that just suck.
Yeah, no, people who go through that many different partners and are always blaming the partner, some fault has to lie with them. Whether or not they're just making this stuff up and they're totally the problem, or maybe they just really choose people that they shouldn't, people who maybe aren't ready to be in a relationship and need to do some self-improvement. But either way, there is one constant in all of these situations.
Story 6. My ex-husband of 28 years left me for a coworker. It's been 4 years and they are still together, but he's not happy. Not necessarily due to her, but because he's just one of those moody men. And to make matters worse, one kid won't talk to him and the other 2 just tolerate him. Oh, and I got a fair settlement in the divorce, and his mistress quit her job right after she moved in with her son. I'm NC, but I've heard he's aged 10 years and drinks a lot. Oh well. It's sad that someone's mental health can be described as just one of those moody men and people just accept it. I get what you mean, but I've also talked to what feels like 1,000 women who say, I tried to get him to talk to his doctor, I tried to get him to go to therapy, I tried for years and years, and he refused to admit there was a problem. If, and it's definitely a leap, but if OP was one of those spouses, I think she gets the right to talk about his moods as flippantly as she wants. It's infuriating to try to manage someone else's mental health with no help from them. There's a line between empathy/accepting someone for who they are and someone deservingly being called an a-hole. Not every behavior is worthy of being forgiven due to past traumas, and not everyone has to jump through hoops to understand and accept why someone is behaving poorly. There is such a thing as personal responsibility for one's actions and behavior. Story 7. Well, let's just say I now have 2 ex-spouses to avoid at family reunions. Why the F are you running into ex-spouses at family reunions? Cue incest jokes. The real reason? Some divorces are amicable enough to have both parents present for holidays and birthdays. The ex is invited for the benefit of the children. I told my wife if we ever get divorced, she will still see me at her family events because her parents love me to death and I love hanging out with them. This will go down as one of the greatest comments that almost no one will ever see. Did you dump your sister for your cousin?
Huge fan of amicable divorces and trying to stay friends, because you can divorce someone because you don't work as a couple, but still see them as a friend and still try and at least be friendly for the sake of your kids if you have some. Like, I love to hear about that, and I think more people should try and keep it in mind.
Story 8. Nearing his deathbed, my dad said he regretted leaving his first wife. My mom was his mistress. Come back and tell us more, please. Old dudes talk an awful lot of crap when they get near death. Story 9.
Hey folks, quick content warning for this next story. It does involve self-termination, and so if you're uncomfortable with that, you may want to scroll to the timestamp on screen to skip this story.
Not me, but my dad. Cheated on my mom. Decided that he didn't like the new women and how she treated her kids. Went back to mom. Mom got cancer and died pretty quickly. No life insurance, so dad got back with mistress and merged our families, 3 kids plus 2 of hers, out of necessity. Years of mental abuse from stepmom to only her non-blood children, but dad worked so much he never saw it. After a vacation together, saw how badly she treated us and got divorced. Brother was so tortured from bullying and low self-esteem, he unalived himself. Sister and I need therapy. I am so sorry. I really hope you and your siblings find peace. You deserve it. It's tough, but we're struggling. She had 2 daughters, so my sister got the worst of it because she'd try and join in with them and they'd pretty much team up against her, but pretty sure my brother was bipolar and that on top of being ridiculed daily didn't help. Story 10. My husband's dad left his mom for his affair partner. It's been 38 years that they've been together now. Is he happy? No idea. Husband and his brothers haven't spoken to their dad in decades. My sister and her husband cheated together. They are still together over 20 years later. It hasn't been smooth sailing, but it has worked. Story 11. My father did this when I was 14. Left my mom out of nowhere for a younger woman he had been cheating with for a year. Gave her the world. The whole time she had a boyfriend her age that was on the plan to take everything from my dad. After a few years, my dad was left with absolutely nothing while she had quietly set up her life with her boyfriend in a different country. You think he learned his lesson? Nope. Happened 3 more times. His current one is in her early 20s while he is in his late 70s. Wow, that is so sad. He's more concerned about being with a younger woman than having an actual companion. Yep, my mom found out late in their relationship he had 6 kids from 3 other women before her. Very sad indeed.
You know, after a certain age, gaps in age of 5, 10, 15 years start to mean less and less to people. And I think that's totally fine. I think men who get older and older and constantly pursue younger women in their 20s are gross. Really gross, especially if you're in your 70s. What do you have in common with this person? I know that once we're all adults, those gaps mean less, but not that much less. And I don't like it because it just, no. I'm not even going to try and justify reasons. We can agree. Just, yeah.
Story 12. Not my story, but someone who was close to me had some kind of a midlife crisis and cheated on his wife of 30 years with a woman who was nearly half his age. Basically lived a double life for a couple years before telling his family about it. He moved in with his mistress. She had enough of him after just a week, packed his things, and kicked him out. Then he tried everything to come back to his family, begged, threatened, showed up every day with any kind of excuse he could find, but nothing worked. He was struggling to find a place to live for a while, lived in hotels on his ex-mistress's couch, finally found a house to share with a bunch of people in their 20s. Really sad because his marriage used to be one of those things that me and his children idolized, but he deserves it. My sister-in-law's husband has always been a D. They have 2 preteen kids together and he cheated with a woman about 20, years older than him. She left him, and now I don't know where he lives or what he's doing. He dropped his kids, my nephews, off at my place the other day, and it was the first time I'd even laid eyes on him in over a year. Literally did a drive-by, didn't even have the guts to wave or make eye contact. Holy crap, man must be kicking himself over the series of bad decisions. Story 13. My father did this, happily married after about 17 years. Did it change your image of him? Well, he abandoned my family when I was just barely 2 years old, cleaned out the house with his now wife when my mother and sister were at church on Easter, and just left 2-year-old me home alone. I fortunately don't remember this as I was too young. He's a narcissist, and I feared him my whole childhood. He's been terribly rude to me at times as an adult. My maternal grandfather did this too. He was married to the woman he cheated on my grandma with until he passed. I don't know how happy he was, though. I never met his other wife, and I never met the 2 daughters he had with her. My mom never liked the new wife, and even though my mom was always cordial with her 2 half-sisters, who are 20-ish years younger than my mom, after my grandpa passed, she gave up whatever little contact with them. It's definitely weird to know she has 2 half-sisters I've never met, but the way it all went down was very painful for her, so I respect her choices. As far as I know, they don't contact my mom either. Both of my parents did it, and 25 years later, they're still happily married, and their spouses' exes never married again and spent the rest of their days lonely. I hate it. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.